Oh boy, we have something a little bit different today. Yeah, that's right. Spicing it up in 2022. I've been making tier lists, and now I'm doing a storytime video, because apparently we have teleported back to 2013. But today I have something that a friend actually kind of sparked me on to making this video, because I shared this story the other night, and he said to me, "You have to share this with people." And I've done a story time before exposing the cultist. If you haven't seen that, here's that video. An experience to be sure, but one that pales in comparison to this lunacy which I am to share with you today. For today, you have read the title. I am going to be sharing the story of the Snake Girl. Now, the Snake Girl. Who is she? I am not going to expose that information. I know exactly who she is, and if she, by some miracle, ends up watching this video, she knows who she is. But no names are going to be used in this, like with my last video, because, you know, as much as I want to expose this lunacy, I don't want to expose the person. There's a lot else there to the person, and I don't want to try and, like, ruin their reputation or anything, so we're just going to call her Snake Girl. Okay? We're just going to be calling her that. So where to begin? The story begins at the very beginning of my second year of university. Myself and my at-the-time girlfriend had decided to move into a place together, and we decided to stay in university halls. The way that our system worked is because just two of us from our previous household had decided to stay together. We got kind of clumped in with a few other people who knew each other, and then one more guy. So there was 5 of us. 2 people had came from another household, then there was me and my then girlfriend, and just this extra guy. And essentially, the start of the year was fine. Everything was okay for, you know, the first month, getting into classes, getting into uni, and everything just progressed as it was. And then the first kind of signs happen. You know, whenever you, like, meet someone, and you can just instantly tell that they have a visible dislike of you. I kind of had that sinking feeling for about a couple of weeks with Snake Girl, and it kind of boiled over into a few small arguments about things like cleaning. Specifically, one time, and this will come back later, don't worry, this is, I have actually planned and wrote for this video. But essentially, she gave off at me, one afternoon, evening, whenever it was, because I didn't clean the microwave. I had just been busy, and I didn't do it, and that was on me. I apologized and went ahead and did it, because, you know, that's what you do when you forget to do a chore in a household. And yeah, that was fine. It continued as it was, you know, a few small bits and pieces here and there, general flatmate bullshit. And then the first big thing happened. So we were in the kitchen, and we were just kind of hanging out. One flatmate, the flatmate who had moved in with Snake Girl from that other pair, was doing the dishes. And even just thinking about this is making me feel gross. But she was cleaning, and she exclaimed, "Oh my fucking god." I'm sitting there, just eating at the table. I just finished cooking. I turn around, and you know, of course, whenever someone says, "Oh my fucking god," you're not just gonna be like, You're gonna be like, What is it? So I ask, and I regret asking this, "What is it?" And she holds up this small plastic thing. It is a menstrual cup. And for those of you who don't know, it's a thing that girls use for their periods. It turns out that Snake Girl had been washing hers out in the communal sink. Disgusting. So yeah, that was the first line where all 4 of the rest of us went, "Fucking don't do that shit." And evidently, she had a perfectly reasonable reaction to that and kicked off at all of us. Guess it's our problem that she's gross, but okay. So she goes ahead and she does that and goes through all of that bollocks of just being pissy because we call her out on her bullshit. She's one of those people, which is just, you know, if you know, you know. But yeah, she gets a little bit more pissy. A few more weeks go by, and then my at-the-time girlfriend, we had just come home from shopping at Tesco, and we were just moving a few things around in the freezer, and she screams. And I immediately think, oh god, she cut herself? What's happened? I run over, "Are you okay? What's going on?" and she holds up this Tupperware container that she pulled out of the freezer. The same freezer that was used by Snake Girl and my girlfriend. They shared a freezer. And I look inside it, and it's frozen mice. And at this point, we didn't know there was any kind of reptile involved in this situation. We just thought that she was fucking weird. And, you know, we confront her about it. We said, what the fuck is this? Like, what's going on with this? And she doesn't bring up the snake right away. Look at that. That's great. She doesn't bring up the snake right away. Spoilers, there's a snake involved. Go figure. She says she's taking care of a friend's pet for a couple of days, which is just a lie. But yeah, we get to that point where it's like, okay, that's excessively gross. You have to tell us about this. Now, the reason why I brought up the microwave thing earlier is because how did she defrost them? These dead mice. She put them in the communal microwave. And she had the fucking balls to harp at me for not cleaning it. Bruh. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what the fuck? What is happening with this girl? She's fucking weird. We should probably, you know, mention this to somebody. So a few more bits of tension goes by. She argues with other flatmates, things that I wasn't specifically involved in, thankfully. But it gets to the point where she says to us one day in our house group chat, hey guys, I'm having some people over later on for work stuff. And we think, you know, okay, sure. She was a student just like us, so, you know, could have just been a group project. And I come in one day from one of my lectures, this same afternoon that she had said I'm having people over. And there's a guy just sitting at the table, and she's working on a laptop talking to him while he is seemingly not doing anything. He's just kind of there listening. And I thought, you know, maybe it's just part of the project that she's doing. I don't speak to her really outside of her drama, so you know, it's not specifically my problem. And later on, my girlfriend at the time comes upstairs and says to me, like, hey, did you see the girl downstairs with gonna have to blur that, with Snake Girl earlier on? And I say to her, what do you mean? Like, there was a guy down there earlier on. She's like, no, there was a girl. Like, so immediately she had two different people in the house, and we were kind of like, okay, sure, this is a bit sus, but let it slide. Next day, a couple more people come in, and we begin to say, like, what is this for? And I think it wasn't me. It was one of the other flatmates twigged on to some documentation or something she had left on the table. And it was for a company called Herbalife. She was running a protein powder pyramid scheme scam out of our uni kitchen. Now that was the point where all the rest of us immediately went, right, we need to contact accommodation about this and get this shit shut down, because that is very much, like, for anybody who has ever stayed in uni halls, that is very much a huge no-no in terms of what is allowed in student halls. You're not allowed to run businesses out of student halls. That is very, very illegal. Like, the rest of the stuff that happened with the frozen mice and the just the general grossness of her was on her. It affected us, but it wasn't our fault. This would have got us in big trouble because we would have been bystanders to something that is illegal. So we reported it. All four of the rest of us put our names on an email and said, hey, look, we are not comfortable with this. Can you guys come over and check it out? And this is the point when the snake got involved. Because the accommodation people came over impromptu. Now this was the thing, keep that in mind, they didn't tell Snake Girl, hey look, we're coming over to investigate your room. They just kind of dropped one day whenever she was at a lecture and went into her room. I know this for a fact because my room was next door to hers. I was in my room at the time, my door was locked, and I heard these people come in and go around her room. Which is allowed, and they found this big box of all of this protein powder, these shakers and stuff, so proof that she was running the scam, essentially. And that was the first thing that they found. They also found a fucking snake. Excuse me? I didn't know about the snake that was next door to my room at the time for months. This is a story that's gone over months, by the way. But I didn't know about the snake until the accommodation people brought it up in an email. And I was sitting there thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, what if this thing got loose? And by the way, I don't know if it was a corn snake or if it was, like, a boa constrictor. I never actually saw the snake. I didn't want to go into her room for fucking obvious reasons. She was nuts. And I didn't want to risk, like, being like, knock, knock, can I see your snake, please, flatmate, who evidently does not like me for reasons. But yeah, I learned about the snake from that accommodation email. And you're probably wondering, any of you who have been to uni, like, how did she not get outed before? Like, there are room inspections, there's, like, fire alarm drills, there's stuff like that there where, you know, like, a snake needs to be in a huge tank. The tank I did see at one point, because she had to fucking move the thing, but spoilers, we're jumping ahead a bit. So, like, how did she not get outed? Like, in terms of all of this random bullshit. And essentially what she did is she moved the snake, the actual, like, tank that the snake was in, inside her wardrobe, like, whenever inspections were due, because legally, I believe, you're not allowed to look inside someone's wardrobe. Like, I live in private accommodation now, but if a landlord came along, I don't think they could look in my wardrobe for stuff. Like, that happened, and she essentially, like, hid everything, like, in any days that there were inspections due. And you're probably wondering, how did she get away with the snake? Like, she couldn't have left a snake there for, like, days. Well, what she did is she took the snake out of the tank and wore one of those hoodies with those, like, middle breast pockets. And she brought the fucking snake to lectures. I did not share a course with this girl. I did not share modules with this girl. But my god, am I fucking glad for that, because can you imagine you're sitting in your lecture, you're just writing away, and you look down, and there's a snake? What would you do? Like, what would you do? Like, I'd try and kill it, probably. Like, just fight or flight would activate. So yeah, she has been outed. The accommodation people have come over for an entirely separate reason, and have discovered the snake. She thinks that one of us broke into her room, saw the snake, and reported the snake. The snake was never in any of our minds. It was the fucking pyramid scheme that was the problem here. But she starts getting highly aggressive towards all of us. Like, I mean, shouting, screaming. Like, whenever people, like, walk into a room and they slam doors and they're very aggressive when putting away dishes and stuff like that there. Small things that make you extremely uncomfortable in your household. And this goes on for about a month and a half. She is told, by the way, to remove the snake from the premises. It is moved down into, I think, a friend's house in town that wasn't under uni, you know, jurisdiction. So she is pissed off that she no longer has her pet, which, to a degree, understandable, but it wasn't our fault. We were reporting you for the fucking pyramid scheme, not for your weird snake. So, you know, she just gets generally aggressive, and then one day something weird happens. We had a spare room in our flat. Like, there was 6 rooms and there was only 5 of us living there. So one day, a new girl just arrives in our house, living there, is moving in. And the rest of us are evidently like, we weren't told about this, what's happening? Turns out, this new girl is a very good friend of Snake Girl. She is literally bolstering her forces and trying to turn the house into a her zone of people who support her unlike her. Bruh. So yeah, you know, uncomfortable place to live. And it turns out she scammed this poor girl out of, I think, like 500 quid on protein powder and shakers and all this Herbalife junk. And the girl wasn't working or anything at the minute, so, you know, this was something that was concerning us just as human beings with morals. That it was like, okay, not fun for this poor girl to have essentially been scammed. And scammed into living with her as well. it wasn't a fun scenario to live in. We all kind of felt very uncomfortable, as you would. And it was one of those things of, we again contacted accommodation to be like, hey look, here's the problem, you know, blah blah blah. And this happened a couple times where we just said to accommodation, we are not comfortable living with this girl. She makes us feel very, very, very trapped. She makes us feel just bad about living. We have to plan going to the kitchen whenever she is not in there. There is constant fear whenever we are in there that she will walk in. It was a horrible, horrible place to live in. And then the sink incident happened.
It was on this day that I realized that I was no longer a boy, but that I was a man.
Because I come in from a lecture, and I hear screaming and shouting from the kitchen, and immediately my heart just sinks in my chest, because I hear that it is Snake Girl and her friend who came with her originally in that two pair. And they are screaming at one another, and I walk into the kitchen, and it's flooded. What the fuck's happened here? Like, the entire kitchen is flooded. The sink has burst, essentially, and the pipes are continually flooding. And, you know, what the fuck? A plumber's on his way. This has been happening for about 20 minutes. And what had happened to burst the pipes? Like, what? You know, what? So I ask, what? Pretty reasonable question. Turns out that Snake Girl had been putting protein powder, like disposing of protein powder, down the sink. It had clumped up, and the pipes had exploded, because nothing could get through. Like, dude, like, come on, like, what the fuck? Like, there's bins, just put it in a bin. Why down the sink why not down the sink in your room? If anything, you know, ruin your room. Don't ruin the rest of, don't ruin the communal spaces. But she's screaming, and she's shouting, and I mean, primal rage screaming that I've not heard in a person before. And eventually, a plumber comes over, and 2 security men come over. Big fucking beefy bricks of men come over. And I'm sitting there in the corner, just having to be part of this begrudgingly, because I live in that house, being like, hi. Not fun. And essentially, security tells Snake Girl, like, hey, calm down. And that's it. I'm sorry, what? That's it? That's all you're gonna do is just tell her to calm down? We've been emailing now for about 2 months about her behavior and about how she is making our lives fucking miserable. And they tell her to calm down? What? What? But, yeah, we're sitting there, we all, at this point, ask, like, accommodation services, like, is it possible to get her transferred to another house? Like, can she just be put out of here? You know, seriously. Like, we're not comfortable. We're not comfortable living here. Like, the rest of us, the 4 other people in this household, it's a majority, are not comfortable living here. And they say, well, we can offer you emergency accommodation. Why? Why would the 4 other ones have to be put out of the household? And it's at this point, you know, I go to bed. I'm tired. And the next morning I wake up. Oh. It's a different day. And I hear a knocking on my door. And it's my girlfriend at the time. And she says to me, come downstairs. There's a shit ton of cardboard boxes in the hallway. She's moving out. It's a happy ending. She packed her stuff and finally fucking left. We won. And it was beautiful. And that's the story of Snake Girl. I saw her every now and again walking around uni with a few friends, with the poor unfortunate girl that she scammed, who also moved out with her. But yeah, What an absolute tale for the century. If you guys liked this kind of thing, different format, different kind of setup for how I usually do stuff like this, but thought I would do something different. It's a new year and I want to experiment with this channel and see what just sticks to the wall. So yeah, if you like this, please give this video a like, give it a sub if you want to see more of this kind of content. It's all about luck in this weird algorithm of insanity. But yeah, hope you guys have a good one. You've been the most beautiful audience, and I will see you all later on. Bye guys.